Hello, we are talking about holiday spirit, not perhaps the one you were thinking of. Because let's face it, there's more than one holiday, and the spirit of the holiday depends on what time of the year it is. Well, I know it does for me. Because in the wintertime, when we're talking about that holiday spirit, it's all kind of let's be jolly and merry and because it's cold outside and we're freezing our butts off. But this time of year, the holiday spirit is very much, oh, well, we can relax, we can do this. Or can we? Because it can be very stressful getting ready to relax. But we'll talk about that in a minute. First of all, let's introduce ourselves. Mary, let's start with you.
I'm Mary Corbett. I'm a life coach who does a mix of coaching with people who are mid-career and people who get swamped at work. And I help them get unswamped in a very practical, pragmatic sense and make sure that when they go on holidays, they relax and
Tony.
really switch off.
Ah, Tony.
Yeah, I'm a business mindset coach. My name's Tony Gordon. My company's Change Your Mind Limited from East Kilbride to south of Glasgow. I work with leadership teams and leadership leaders, helping them to get some clarity, direction and purpose in their life. Very similar to Mary is a lot of my clients' biggest problem is going away on holiday, taking laptops, from working on their holiday. So it's getting people to understand that when they need to take a break from work, everything else and just chill. So anybody that needs anything like that, I'm always happy to help.
Angela.
Hi, I'm Angela Day, and I help people deal with their stuff, regardless of what that stuff is, whether it's something that needs to be put down, something that needs to be got rid of, or something that needs to be worked through. And I use a variety of modalities to help my clients with that. And at the moment, with it being that holiday season, I also work with snot monsters. So allergies and intolerances are rife right now. So I also help people get through the symptoms and help their body to stop fighting itself and remind their immune system that pollen doesn't have to be the enemy.
And I'm Leslie Marsh, and I do a little bit of just about everything to a certain extent, depending on what the needs of the client are. So it's a kind of looking at an agar plate and putting something in it and growing a culture. Depends on what you're looking to grow as to what you put in the plate. And that's where the magic happens. So basically, today, we're talking about holiday spirit. And it's got to do with more changing the state of mind going into the holiday idea. Because this is something that we are supposed to be having fun with. However, I know, because I've seen it happen, that it can be one of the most stressful things to get to go on holiday. And I have heard that the optimum time for a holiday is 3 weeks because it takes you 1 week to decompress and to actually get into the idea that you're not working anymore. 1 week to be on holiday and actually be that person who's de-stressed and just chilling out. And then another week to actually get you started revving back up to go back to work, which then is, of course, when you get the flu because you've been on the airplane, you've been working so hard and your body's been going, please let me rest, please let me rest, please let me rest. And you've been going, no, 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 we've got to get this one done, we've got to get that one done. And you guys will know all about that. Angela.
Yeah, it's a really common thing to happen that when you actually allow yourself to stop because you're no longer forcing yourself to do whatever you need to do, that's when you tend to crash. And I do work with a lot of school teachers who find that the first week of the school holidays, regardless of which time of year it is, first week of the school holidays typically are spent not being very well because their bodies have finally said, okay, this is a gap now. I'm going to floor you and you're going to go and stay in your bed because you need the rest. And I think we need to work at different ways of allowing our bodies to have that rest throughout the year while we're working, regardless of whether you're a teacher or not. But it's also that point of understanding when to rest while you've still got the busy, so that when you have the time off to enjoy yourself, that's when you don't want to be necessarily lying on your back for 2 weeks, not well, feeling miserable, and then your holiday's over and school's back, or you've got to go back to the office. So there is that aspect to it. And I think the other side of it is that as most of us now are on this screen are working for ourselves, we have a habit of not actually taking holidays. So that needs to be looked at as well. So yes, okay, when you're working for an organization and you've got mandatory holidays, and when I was before, you had core leave where you had to take 10 days consecutively off, so you had to be out of the office for 2 weeks. To then move into a position where I'm working for myself and I don't always remember to take time off.
Mary, would you say that means that we have to be installing boundaries?
Well, you rest assured we have to be installing boundaries. I love my boundaries. But I do think there's an interesting boundary for people who work for corporates. And that is that they really need to use that week before they go on holidays to do handovers, to set up the stuff so that they've handed it off. Not on the Friday, but maybe even up to 10 days beforehand, so they make sure somebody else can take over from them so that they don't have that worry. And I think when you get people into this mindset of, well, while I'm on holidays, it's not your manager who's going to do the crisis. It's probably one of your peers. So actually, in fact, having one of your peers pre-set up that here's the issues, it's all documented there for you, that you've got everything you need, you then know somebody else can handle it, so you will relax quicker. And I think we don't attach enough importance to prepping for going on holidays. In other words, that first week unwind, Leslie, I'd like to see people doing that on company time, not on their own time.
I like that idea. I like that idea.
But
Tony,
but it requires clear boundaries. For
Yeah.
that to happen, everybody has to have clear boundaries.
And in mindset as well, boundaries are quite important, aren't they, Tony?
Oh, yeah, totally. I agree totally with what Mary just said, because I had a client earlier this week. We just finished our sessions, but we did a little catch up after a month. She had a holiday just to see how she was. And one of the things is she's doing great. All the things we've put in place are really happening. It's helped her so much professionally. But she says, oh, but it's school holiday season next week, so all that stress starts. And I said, okay, so what have you put in place? Oh, we've got a couple of days here and there where the kids get things to do. And I said, what age are your children? So I think it was 11 and 14. And I said, right, so how long have these school holidays? Many times have been school holidays in that period. She says, what do you mean? I went, so you've had school holidays every year you know are coming, but you never plan for them. You wait to the last minute to do it. And in business, it's so common. I say to people, is when you get a deadline, why do you always wait to right before the deadline? Now, when you look at people like yourselves, when it comes to self-employed, I always say to people, why does everybody wait to get all their tax everything done in January or that when their tax year ends? And then they go ballistic because they're trying to get everything together. You know that the year it's coming. So why are you not prepared? Just like Mary said, is the prepping is so important. Whether it's deadlines in your business, whether it's coming for school holidays, if you prepare it each year coming up, you don't even feel that stress coming up because you know you get something in place. Things may happen, but you can look at them and say, okay, we've even got things for that. We've thought of things that will happen. One of the simple things I said to her was, okay, you've got to balance the work with the children. How many other parents at the school are in the same position? What do you mean? Well, why can't you take turns each? So there's one day, one's got the kids and next day somebody else has got them. Even you do that, you may have one day it's disrupted, but is that no better than 5 days when you're disrupted all the time, each week? And it was so simple a process just to put things in place, but we never thought of it that way. And I think it is so important that you prep everything that you do because it will reduce the stress. And even for teachers, all right, as Mary said, even when they know the holiday's coming up, a simple question when you're going to go on holiday is to ask people, what do you need to ask me before I go off? Get them to ask you the questions before you go off so that they can get, well, I need to know that. Because you might tell them everything, but you're only thinking from your perspective. But if they ask you the questions, what they need to know, that means they know what to cover if anything happens. So yeah, boundaries are so important, but prep and releases stress before it even happens.
Oh, yes. Being a bit of a deadline daisy, I know how that works. Not. But it used to be when you're talking about people getting things done and arranging things and prepping things, I used to find that when I would ask people, do you need to know anything before I go? Can't think of anything. And then about 2 days after I was off, I would get phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
Watch this. I actually got a phone call after I had left the job, about 2 months after I'd left the job, because the X-ray developer machine had decided to have a wobbly and nobody knew how to fix it because nobody was going to look at the manual that was actually there, which was how I learned to fix it. And I was like, excuse me, do you pay me anymore? I don't think so. So look it up yourself.
Consultancy fees.
Yes, well,
Yeah.
I'll send the head vet my bill for a consultancy fee and guaranteed it's going to be more than what he paid me. So yeah, but there are definitely situations where that happens, and there's definitely situations where, personally, I know that I wait till the end of the line. In fact, possibly about 2 minutes before. Although recently I've been a very good girl with the help of Angela. I've been a very good girl because I've been getting organised. And that can be the issue, the organisation, thinking about it, especially if you're a scatty person like me. And things like ADHD come into play. And when we think about it and we procrastinate. And usually, for me anyway, it's a case of I don't really like doing that. I'll just leave that over there just now and I'll go and do something else. I will do housework before I will do accounts. And that's saying something. So yeah, I get the whole thing about the boundaries and the preparation.
I do
But
think
it's
on that one though, Leslie, it's looking at the language that we're telling ourselves as well. So
Yes.
deadline daisy, scatty, not organised, and that's just
Yes.
listening to a very short thing from what you were saying.
Yes.
But it's also an interesting one that deadline dodging or daisy or whatever you want to call it. There is a personality type where it is the personality type to leave things till later because then everything's settled and you know exactly what you're working with. There's another personality type that does everything up the front, and then the manager goes and changes their mind and decides they want to do something different. So all that work they've done is then lost and they've got to do it again. So there's two different ways of doing it as to whether one works or not. But absolutely that preparation, have that checklist. And Leslie, with that comment of, oh, nobody wants to know anything from me, turn it back on its head and say, this is the tasks that I'm going to be leaving for you. Do you know all the steps? Can you talk them through them with me so that we can see if there's any gaps in my process note? Because I've done the process note based on what my knowledge is and my assumptions, etc. And that might not be the same as the next person that's going to be doing the job after me. So we need to look at the language that we're using, and because we don't have to be deadline daisies and scatty, we can turn that around and become whatever we choose.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot to do with that. I also realised that being a deadline person has got to do with the actual focus of attention spot. When I have that time pressure, my focus and my attention, nothing else gets done. There's nothing else in the world but what has to be done. And that's habitual, and it can become habitual for a lot of people. And yes, the language is very important. And it's something that I hear myself say because I used to say it a lot. I used to think it a lot and I used to be it a lot, especially when I wasn't hyper-focused and I wasn't working. So when I was on a holiday, nobody could get an inch of sense out of me. Now it happens all the time, so it's really not a point. Because I work for myself, so I can be whatever I want to be, whenever I want to be it, and that's it. I make my own deadlines.
But it's funny what Angela said about the different personalities, because I seem a bit of both. I have a lot when I work with clients, and I do a lot of work with them on time management and time awareness, which a lot of them don't understand the difference. And when I'm doing it, I realise to them that I do a lot of prep, and they're right, I work a lot ahead of times, and I've always got things ready well in advance. I don't like being late for it. I'm one of these people that's always got an hour early, just in case something happens I couldn't get there. But see, when I was at university, I realised the opposite. When I tried to study over the period for an exam, I would do it and I'd end up doing it and go back over it and over it, and I'd lose the flow. What I started doing was I would do it the weekend it was due in. And I started doing that, and I realised that the only time I got a bad mark in it was the one I did their way. When I did everything under the pressure I put myself under the weekend before, that's when I did better. everything improved. And when our tutors got it, they never realised I did that. They thought I'd done this for weeks. They used it as an example. And I said, no, I actually started that on Sunday and I finished it on Monday night and put it in on Tuesday. And it was like a 3,000 word essay. And he's like, but how can you do that? I went, because that's how my mind works. I needed that pressure to be able to soak that up. But yet I get other people to prep things well in advance to do that, because that doesn't always work for me. But you're right, you have to be able to do both. Some people like that pressure situation with a deadline, and understanding that, as long as they know how to do it and do it properly, that can be a great thing as well.
I think it's a reward part there as well, because I found that when I was at school, in secondary school, and particularly in English, I would do the essay that they were waiting for in the 10-minute break before I went into the class. And those that I did that way were actually rewarded better than anything I tried beforehand.
Yeah.
So for me, that meant that it was better to do it in that short time space, because then it got done. It was done. There was nothing I could do about it. It was just there.
To add on to that, it's in that aspect of once you learn your style and how you work, don't then spend the month that you've got saying, I'm going to do it today, and then beat yourself up. I'm going to do it today, and then beat yourself up. Start to say, right, okay, it's due on this day. I'm going to do it then. So all that time before, you've not beat yourself up every single day for having not done anything by the deadline. And likewise, if you do know that you work to deadlines and there's stuff that's got to get done that doesn't have a deadline, set one, because then it'll get done.
That's true.
Basically,
But
are
I
we
do
talking
think there's
then?
something. There is something interesting about our holidays, though. But when we talk about people going on holidays and deadlines, the amount of work people get done in those two couple of days before they go on holiday. So the work has been expanding for the time available to finish, but suddenly when they have to get it done, they get through so much. And when they recognize, oh, if I create that, as you were saying, Angela, that artificial deadline, I can tear through a whole pile of things that I'm not interested in, because put yourself into that. I'm going on holiday mode, so I have to get it off the desk. And it works wonderful. But the other piece, and it's one I'm dealing with clients at the minute, there's going to be such a mess when I come back from the holidays. I don't think I'll take my 2 weeks. I'll only take a week. My idea of why could somebody, and they're not indispensable. I can assure you the people I'm dealing with are not indispensable. There will be no crisis, but they're in their heads. They've built this up, and I think that's a huge component of us having a holiday spirit, is that ability to say, actually, that's work. This is playtime, and I need to actually switch from one to the other. So I think we have to get people to recognize it's not necessarily about going away on a trip or getting on an aeroplane or any of that. It's about switching mentally off from the work zone.
Do we believe that we are indispensable, though, because we are unable to say no during the working week? Do we not have the ability to actually say no when someone comes up and says, I don't know how to do this, can you do this for me? Or I've got so much to do, will you do that for me? Or I know you're busy, but because it's all that thing about, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. And there's a lot of people who actually start laying things off on you. And I think that sometimes that's how people get the idea that they're indispensable, because they keep actually allowing themselves to be put upon.
But it can also be a fear.
Sorry, it's exactly along those lines. It's that I'm going to make myself indispensable so that I'm not going to lose my job, that I'm going to get the promotion, that people are going to look at me in a certain way. So it's almost a false one as well of give me more work, and I'm going to make myself to that point that nobody else could possibly do it better than me or do it differently than from me. So there was a volunteer role that I was doing, and I was busting a gut doing this volunteer position. And I said, I've had enough. I can't do it anymore. Like 20 years down the line, they replaced me with 3 people, and one of them was paid. Because I just kept taking more and more. And that was what I did in my holidays. I would take holidays from work to go and do this voluntary stuff. So you've got to be aware that, I think, I'm not going to preempt what Tony was about to say there, but yeah, the fear aspect of I don't want to have somebody think that I'm not needed, and I need to feel needed. So I'm going to make myself indispensable.
And it is that because of some of the clients that I have, that's their fear. When they go back, if everybody's, oh, how was your holiday? And nothing went wrong, they feel as though I wasn't needed. Well, they've not missed me, so what are they going to do when I'm here? And it starts to fit that thing as an inferiority complex. As they think, well, why did they not need me away? Instead of thinking the opposite, I prepped so well, I got everything organised before I left. That's why they didn't need me while I was away. But that's not the mindset. The mindset is, well, if I'm away, nothing goes wrong, or if I come back and it's all finished, everything's fine. They don't need me anymore. And it is that mindset they start getting themselves into. And it's, I think part of it as well is because we talk about holiday spirit as you're supposed to feel positive, upbeat, lively, everything else when people talk about holiday. But for some people, there's different dreads, as Leslie alluded at the beginning. Some people, because the fact of having the kids all the time and trying to keep them occupied can be such a stress in itself. But for other people, they just don't get that. And it's difficult for them when they've got a family to go with and they're the only one that doesn't really feel the same way as the rest. They don't really get that out of it as being all away and think everything's great. And that can be a really difficult thing for people as well, as how to deal with that side.
Or they don't have specific plans that they're going to go away. I was always very much the case of, if I've got a holiday, I want to be doing something with it. The thought of taking a holiday and just staying in my house for a week didn't work for me. And I don't know if that was, I was such an extrovert, I needed to be around people. Things have changed a little bit now that I work from home and I work for myself and I don't surround myself with people. But in the corporate days, I didn't want that concept of being home alone on my own for a week. What do I do? I need to be in the office with people, or I need to go away and do something with people. So there could be that aspect as well. And depending on people's financial situations at the moment, being forced to take those holidays, and as I was saying about that core leave, we had to take 2 weeks in a block every year. And it's maybe not an easy thing to then say, well, I don't really have the funds to go and spend on holidays, which are now very much more expensive than they were when I was still in corporate, or even than they were before COVID. And I think it is that point that there's a lot of stress that can come along with holidays. And yes, for some people it's amazing. And Tony, as you were saying, in family groups, half of them could be absolutely loving it and buzzing, so excited, and then everyone's saying, "You're really excited for your holiday?" Like, another day? What's the big deal? So there can be that discomfort, which then can cause stress and anxiety as well.
And then there's the idea of, letting your hair down, shall we say, going off and just drinking yourself into a stupor kind of thing, which is what a lot of people tend to think is the way to let themselves go and relax. Is to just, because they don't really know what to do with themselves other than, be hungover for the day and then have a hair of the dog when they get back up at night again. The younger that you are, I'm thinking that's kind of how it goes a lot of the time for a lot
Not
of people.
so much now, I don't think. I think the younger generations seem to be not quite as drink culture as perhaps my generation and your generation.
Well, I don't
I'm
know.
not
I've
going
been
to say
watching a few
everybody.
television programs about some places, and particularly with
Oh, yes,
getting tattoos.
those holiday destinations, I think, still have that draw, and the people that are interested in the drink culture will still go to those places. And I don't know if they're necessarily the younger generations.
No, they don't have to be, because they started off that way in our time. They haven't stopped yet. I think their liver's pickled by this time, so it's okay. But that's the thing, though. There's also a kind of pressure, perhaps, for a certain idea of, we're going here, we're going to do this, and we're not going to see sunlight. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. We're just going to go out and get drunk every night, and that's the way to have a party. And you would be right that there's a few people who don't have that ethos in them, but they feel that they can't not go there and do that, because then there'd be party pooper, is what we used to call
it's
it.
the peer pressure.
Yeah,
that's the
peer
thing that people
pressure.
feel, but it's the same way in a family. Say, I said, if you get something, it isn't the same way. You feel that peer pressure to do what everybody else is doing. But even you made a good point, Angela, as well, but what you're going to do, you need to do something. I know working with somebody recently who doesn't want to do anything, but they were telling people they were going to be doing something. they were going to get away because they just feel awkward with the fact everybody else is talking about where they're going. So they were saying, I'm going to go here, but you actually doing that? I went, well, actually, no, I don't really want to go anywhere. Well, why don't you say that? Give yourself permission to do what you want to do. It's your break, it's your holiday. It doesn't matter if they think, well, why are they not going there? And you're right, some days it can be because of funds, but some days just because some people don't want it. I worked with a director the other week, and he was similar to you said, Angela. I asked him what he's going to do his holiday. He said, the first couple of days, Tony, to be honest, I'm not moving. I'm literally not moving.
Lock
He
the
said,
front door.
yeah, I'm just going to let my brain
Yeah.
settle everything. Laptop's getting closed. He says, the mobile will be on for emergency only. That's why he's loaded it. He says, nothing else. He went, I'm not going to put the TV on then. I'm just going to let myself go with that. And I said, what about the rest of your time? He said, I've arranged all that. I said, oh, you're going to be? He went, no, I'm volunteering. No, what's he doing? He's helping out in a disabled centre. Well, he's off. And I went, that's amazing. I mean, but why did you do it for you? He said, I thought I could just go and chill and do nothing, but I can't do that. It's not in his nature to do it. So he wanted to still do something where he's helping somebody else with it. And he said, I'm still able to do something I want to do. And I thought that was brilliant because he found a way to deal with his rather than saying, I need, like Leslie, I need to go. And he's only 27, 28. He's a director of his own company, but thought that was a great attitude. All his friends are going abroad. You're right. I think they're even going to one of the places where Leslie might have mentioned there about the drink culture. I'm pretty sure actually when he mentioned that's where they are all going. But for him, it wasn't. It was more about that he just wanted to do something that suited him. And I loved his word. He said, I gave myself permission, Tony, just to say 2 days, just let myself chill. And then I've arranged to go and do this and help them out. I went, that's a great idea. But it shows again is finding what's right for you. When you go and do the holiday, that's the important factor.
This is the boundary thing
it
again, though,
really-
isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah, it really brings it back to the mindset of my holiday. It's separate from my work. And it's why I always have that. I always get struggle with the people say, well, if you find what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. No, you're still working. It's work.
It's harder.
You're probably even working harder. Yes, you're enjoying it and it's lovely, but we all need breaks from the routine of what we're doing most of the time. And the idea that we need to take a break from it and just let the brain cells that are firing in one part of our brain have a rest.
And taking that break fires up the creativity, it fires up the passion, it helps us to look at things differently, it helps us to generate new ideas, new ways of doing things, just by taking the focus off. And it doesn't have to be a holiday, that could just be a 20-minute walk. But having that 2 weeks away where you have left your laptop at home, you have left any devices where you can go on Zoom at home, so you're not going to be tempted to jump on a call somewhere. It's really important.
I remember once my niece was in her for a grown-up job, and she was her boss said she had a company phone, and he asked her for it when she was going on holidays, and he said, well, you won't be getting any calls, give me the phone. He took her work phone off her. And she panicked, but what if I'm needed? And he said, well, you can rest assured when I'm on holidays, you'll have my phone. So no, I'll take yours for now. So he was also giving himself the permission that he was going to completely stop. But he really got that message across to her. Work, take a complete break. That's it. It's a non-negotiable.
That's a great mindful leader. Someone who realises that and the mindful is looking after the staff the same way, but also shown by example that he's actually doing the same thing. So when I go, I'll give you it. So she gets to take control of that. And that's a great way for him to use it as an example.
I loved it. I thought it was a great example.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So I do that with students. I get students when they get me to do their, they've got to do study sessions for me, as the parents take the phone off them. So while they're doing it, they can't actually go on the phone to do anything. They can just sit what they've got to do and study. And it's amazing how that does that. And with holidays coming up, I use that as a sort of thing so they can get some sort of a reward out of it. If they do the study up to there, they get a set amount of time off and they'll get their phones not back. And it works with people. But to do that with a business thing, I think is an even better idea. That's a great one to do that with and help people, because you're also getting the person to realise they need to take that break. They need to do something else, find something. Because if you've got the phone, you're always waiting for it to go. You've also got that thought in your mind all the time. Because it's not there, you can't think of it.
How easy is it to stop as a therapist and or a coach? How easy is it to turn that off, even when you're on holiday?
I did it for 5 days. I've just come back. I didn't take the laptop. Yeah, we did have a bit of a chat, didn't we, Mary? But we didn't do a huge amount on it. But we didn't do a huge amount on it.
No, we
And
didn't.
that was more of a
we
conversation.
contained it into one conversation. Most of the
Exactly.
time we didn't do it.
So
And
yeah,
that-
so
and
5
that
days,
is-
no
that is
laptop,
too-
no work, nothing.
But that is two coaches recognizing and understanding what they were talking about. But what I'm talking about is when we go off on holiday and we're even with the family or we're with friends or something like that,
And you end up
and you end up
Well, I'll tell you what
coaching
it's like in
and-
2 weeks' time. Because I've made a promise. I've made a promise with this. Is it was put to me the other day by my wife for that. Jordan said to me, "You're not taking a laptop and else when we're going away." And I'm telling clients it all the time. She went, "So you need to do it." And the first time we used, but there was this thing I was going to do. I was just going to, because I like to write a lot. So I was going to, every time I get thoughts, I just write them. And I was like, that's going to be really hard. And I thought about it. I'm sat with a couple yesterday of directors, and we were talking about that. They've got some new people stepping in. So my thing was they weren't allowed the laptop. I've agreed one laptop between the two of them, but they can't act on it. They can do it for 1 hour a day, and they can just see an overview. Only an emergency reason they can do it. But it's just because they've got 2 new people stepping into a senior role. They don't want it. They would worry about it all the time if I said, no, you can't take it. And I thought about that, and I was talking to them and said, well, you're going on holiday. What are you doing? I was sitting doing this, my hands, going, I can't take my laptop, and I'm only allowed my mobile phone if I'm going to use it for personal use. And I went,
Yeah, but then you could take a bit of paper and a pen and
funny,
write
somebody
down.
said
Or,
that
or buy
yesterday.
yourself some pretty stationery.
You mean
Yes.
like this,
Exactly.
Angela? Like, so I get highlighters when I've got there.
journal.
2
Do the
notepads just in
journal
case.
thing.
Look,
No,
2
no,
pads,
that's
highlighters have been
going,
ready.
that's going too far.
Yeah, no,
Just
it was.
Absolutely,
just
that's
jot
far
down
too
an
organized.
idea
A
here and
journal
there.
is fine. To me, a journal.
No, I'm not taking.
Labels.
I'm not even
Oh my
taking them.
goodness. I want
They're
one
there,
of them.
they're there for a client meeting tomorrow morning. But no, I'm not taking anything. It's going to be literally a break. It'll be the first time since you set the business up over 3 years ago that I'll have done this. 3.5 years that I've took. And not even took a week off in that time. So this will be the first I've took a proper sustained break. So I'll let you know if I manage it after I come back.
Well, we're going to be agog to see and hear all those creative ideas and everything else that's come up because you've allowed the dust to settle
That's
and
it.
you've allowed
We
new
might need
spaces
to
in.
ask on the next video how you got on, and if you're not here on the next video, we know it's because you're hiding from answering the question.
Yeah. Oh, well, I broke down and I went to a
Can
laptop
I flag
cafe.
one thing really quickly?
Mhm.
Can I flag one thing really quickly? Because I'm very conscious that a lot of people have a panic about what they're going to face back into when they get back.
Yeah.
And actually taking time, and they say, oh, I'll have so many emails. And I have actually come to the conclusion that is the first thing they should go to is not the email list. They should take what will be the biggest priority and plan it out. Who was looking after that while you're away? Have the meeting scheduled with them. But if they plan out that week of their return or the first couple of days to how they're going to do their catch-ups so that they are in control, I think that is hugely powerful.
I've
And
already
I think
done
we
that for
do
me
need to flag
coming
that.
back, and I've done it with people that I'm working with at the moment. I'm doing a couple of projects with people, and we've arranged that as soon as I come back off holiday for that reason, just to find out where everyone is with that, because that's the priority. I'm working with a new group of people for 6 months. So to that, and it's funny, I did this with that group of directors yesterday, and it's one thing we did with that. I said to them, when you come back, because also one of them just been off to an event over in Singapore, and I said, did you arrange before you left a meeting when you come back to tell the rest of the leadership team about it? Well, no, I never thought of that. I said, so you've come back, everybody's waiting for you to say it, but no, you've not done it. And how good is it, but when you do it, you bring back from the holiday and you've got all that planned, so you don't have to try and fit it in. You're right, fit it in anyway, you've done it. So I've got them to do that, and I've done the same thing for me when I come back. My first week when I come back is all things to catch up with the people that I need to. And the email list is actually right down on it. I've got an hour a day for the first couple of days. I'll look at it in the afternoon, but it's not in the mornings because it's not a priority.
Yeah, I think people have to look at what will be your priority, particularly if they're busy and they have a lot of responsibility. Plan the single priorities of what you need to prioritize when you get back. I think it will add to the level of relaxation while they're on holiday, and they'll get more out of it.
So means you'll enjoy yourself a little bit more because you can actually stop thinking about work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for 5 seconds.
But exactly that. You prep before you go. You prep for when you get back, so that when you are away, you're away.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say away, you're away from the desk. You're away from the ties of the work and everything else that goes along with it, and having that gap. And I love, Tony, when you were saying it, and Mary as well, the conversations about the good managers are saying you must have this time off for this, and it's really good
Mhm.
for your mindfulness. It's really good for your mind. My last employer forced us to take 2 weeks off. It wasn't necessarily for, it was a side effect that we got it for our well-being and our mental. But 2 weeks is a really good amount of time to be off, spot fraud. So actually, that was the reason we had to have 2 weeks off. And our access was not allowed. So they blocked our access to the laptops. They blocked our access to the systems
Oh, I like that.
because it was a way to check whether or not we were committing fraud. So there's that little
They
niggle as
didn't
well
trust you.
of course they didn't trust us.
Oh.
But with the size of organisation I used to work for, it's understandable that they wouldn't have that oversight. But I think it is that point as well that you get to see where you really need that member of staff, if it's
Mhm.
your staff that have gone off. But also, I think Tony, you were saying about the indispensableness as well.
Mhm.
Yes, they might have gone really well while you were away because they've done the preparation, they've done everything else. But it could also be that you get back so they can all breathe again because they've been working
Mhm.
10-hour days, or they've been doing their job on top of your job and they're ready for a collapse because and they don't want you to ever go away again, but they don't want you to feel guilty. So they
Mhm.
just say to you, everything's gone fine. So it's about not just making that assumption, well, I wasn't needed. Actually, you probably were, and they're really glad that you're back because they can give you back all that stuff that nobody else wants to do because you're an expert at it.
That's the, I don't know how you do this on a daily basis. Here.
Have it back.
It's yours. I don't want your
Yeah.
job.
Or someone do the opposite. You're just so good at that. We really want you to keep doing that because you're the best one at that. You're brilliant at that. Yeah.
Yep.
And you can
Yep.
they
Yeah,
think it's great when you hear it, and you go, I wonder why they all keep giving you the same work.
I've had that weaponized so often. It's like, Leslie, you do that because you know you're really good at that.
Mm.
You're just so good at doing that. I would just make a mess of it. So, well, surely you need to practice then.
It's one of those ones you make a rod for your own back. And it's
That's it.
silly little things like I got volunteered taking the minutes for a meeting, and now I'm being asked to be the secretary because I did such a good job.
I was taught
So
that
it's
when I
not
first
always
started working.
beneficial to be good at it.
One of the first times I ever taught a rule when I first started working, a guy taught me that. He says, today's favour's tomorrow's job. Be careful what you ever do and what you volunteer for. Anyway,
And
it's
don't
not that
be
I don't
too good
volunteer
at
for
it.
it, it's just watch what you volunteer for because,
Yeah.
you always get it. It always is added to it. It's
Don't
a
be too
very
good
good
at
adage
it.
that. Mhm.
Too late.
Yeah, too late for me too. But there you go. This is it though. When we're not really thinking about the present when we're doing this. We're thinking about, oh, holiday time. I'm just going to do that. And it's all, oh, I have to buy these clothes, that clothes, and then we have back to
Mhm.
school clothes that we have to buy and the whole thing. So there's a financial wave thing, that tsunami that's going on. But also there's this thing about when we go there, are we going to have enough money to spend when we're there? And there's worries there as well financially.
Yeah.
There's so many things that we don't prioritize. And Mary, you're using that word prioritization is really, really important. But surely at one point we should be actually, or could be more appropriately, thinking that holidays are good things to have. They're something that we can expect to have and not have to fight about or push ourselves into or whatever. When did work become, and it has over the last couple of decades, become this manic beastie that has to be fed all the time? Have we kind of lost the idea that, because holiday comes from holy day, doesn't it? And it was,
But
that's
then
where
they used
we
to
were
be just
made to take them off.
days. But
Hmm?
they were days. They weren't 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, I
See, a
mean, it
holy
used to
day
be a
was a
hen night, now
day.
it's a hen fortnight.
Mm.
Well, exactly. A wedding day is now at least a weekend, a 3-day event.
Mhm.
Are you kidding me on? That's small.
But
Oh,
it's commercialism, isn't
comparatively.
it? We talk about the different
It's
types of year. You said about the winter holiday, and it's all commercialised, all of
Mm.
that. But you talk about someone that's the same. People are trying, they think they're expected to go these holidays, like you said, go different age groups, go take their kids in it, and they want the kids to take something good as well, because you don't want to go back to school and everybody talk about where they've been and these ones didn't get to go and like that. That's always difficult for parents as well, so they try and fill it in with things, and that's the problem, is trying to do everything that's too expensive for them, is knowing their own limitations, their own budgets can have, but still have fun. You can have so much fun, it doesn't have to cost a lot, but I think nowadays people don't realise it, or they've forgot how to do that, just to have fun, that it doesn't cost money.
And that can be a lot of pressure put on kids as well, because I don't know, I remember the essays that you had to bring to school when you came back after the school holidays, what I
you
did
in
on
the
my
holiday,
holidays.
that's it. Yeah,
Holidays.
You know,
so much pressure was put on the kids for that.
mine were very succinct, nothing.
But it was true.
I used to make things up.
I was at the zoo, so
I
you know,
read
I went to the zoo.
I read books, so there was always plenty of things I could write about.
Yeah,
I said to you,
yeah.
I used that example earlier, the guy that I spoke to is going, but he was so embarrassed about not going anywhere that he just made something up, said where he's going to be. And I thought it was a bit weird, but it's the same reason for that. It's just the peer pressure. They felt under it. So he's gave a great thing about it. Probably didn't say he's made it. He's looked in it. You've got Google and everything nowadays. He's probably just studied every single bit. Because when he talks about this, you think he'd been there already and he's not supposed to have left yet.
So
But
does
he
he
can
go
tell
in
you
a
everything about it.
does he go in a sunbed and get a tan?
But I
then
didn't ask him about it, because it depends where he goes. Maybe
Photoshop
just
himself into pictures for somebody else's holiday.
Maybe
So
just
that they
staying in
can say,
Scotland
where's your
and that.
pictures then? Where's the, why are you not in social media doing this, that, or the other?
He'd get
It's
away with
that
that one because he
peer
hates
pre-
getting his picture taken. So
it
he'd
is
actually
that
get
peer
around it.
pressure and expectations, isn't it? And
Yep.
what is the expectation of a holiday? So as my expectation of a holiday was, if I'm taking a holiday, I'm going to do something with it. I'm not wasting my days off, because I don't get very many of them. Whereas, as I said, now I
But there was
take
a
even
good
less.
point you made earlier about teachers. The first week the teacher goes off, they stay in. So is that wasted because they're staying in, or is that a good thing because the body needs re-energized? It needs to just replenish itself. So actually, people need to get the mindset is sometimes a holiday literally is do nothing. If that's what your mind and body need, you listen to that and you do that, and that's still a great thing because it's still something you're doing.
That's what holidays are for.
Yes.
It's to allow you to replenish and recuperate and to actually change your mind, change your state of being, change how you see things, reconnect with people and your family, particularly if you don't get to see them a lot, reconnect with yourself.
That's the important one.
Be mindful about things so that, oh, I used to love doing that. Why can't I do that again? You know. Then again, what you could do in that department is go and do something that you used to do and used to love and probably break your ankle. And then you'll be off for even longer. So you get a whole lot of time to recuperate and to
do it with limitations nowadays, because there's things you can't do anymore you used to do. Your mind still thinks you can, the body can't.
Yeah, your brain writes checks that your body can't answer.
That's where kinesiology tape comes in really handy.
Oh yes, I'm gonna have to get some of that stuff.
But it's true, and it's remembering that fact that it is all about you. The holiday really is about making sure yourself, whatever it is, give you permission to do it. If you don't want to do it, give permission to do that. If you want to do it with the kids or the family, go and do that. Whatever it is, we always say about self-care, don't we? It just means care of self. Do whatever's right for you and never feel guilty about it. That's the important bit. Doing what's right for you, what matters to you, is the important part.
And I think we can give an offer here as well, that if you feel as if you need somebody else to give you permission, give one of us a shout. We'll give you the permission you need.
Oh yeah, we'll tell you. Yeah, you're fine. You go there. You go there. And I am giving you all the permission now to actually stop and breathe and think, yeah, holiday is what I make of it. Holiday is how I see it. I am an individual and I like to do things. So perhaps I can take a holiday off by myself. Perhaps I can take a holiday that will be with someone who shares the same values and the same ideas as me as to what holiday should be. And then I can have another holiday with people who I have to fit in with. But even then, because you've done something for yourself, because you've made something work for yourself, you're more able to give that extra part in a space where you might not quite fit. I have a sign that I've seen that says, measure twice, cut once, and shove it in to make it fit. That's not a holiday. So prioritise, get your boundaries right, do everything. Start telling everybody you are going to be on holiday. And when you say holiday, you mean it's a rest time. And make it work for you. And as Angela said, if it's not and you're having trouble, give us a shout. We'll be here.